I'll bet many of your British viewers don't even know what a deductible or a copayment is, do they? Does that term mean anything to you?
I have no idea what that is. I'm sorry. I guess my first question to you is, do you have any advice for first-time voters and who is likely to be on their ballot and how to prepare in advance?
Well, I think the first point that I would make to is I want everybody to understand how enormously important this election is.
Mm-hmm.
And even if you're young and it's the first time that you're voting, you feel a little bit intimidated, get over it, because it is enormously important for the United States and the rest of the world that Donald Trump is not reelected. So even it causes you a little bit of discomfort,
Mm-hmm.
do it. It's too important not to participate. Second of all, the election system here in the United States is a disaster. We have 50 states. Each one of them makes their own rules. And in some states, there are governors who are working overtime trying to suppress the vote, literally trying to make it harder for people to vote.
Yeah.
And we're working hard on that. And one of the things I would hope that Joe Biden and a Democratic Congress will do is make it clear that if you are 18 years of age in the United States, no matter where you live, you're going to be able to vote without voter suppression or harassment.
I personally, I feel very deeply about Black Lives Matter and seeing justice for police brutality. If I'm American and I feel strongly about that, is that something that I can vote for or vote on with this ballot?
Absolutely. You can vote on it because everybody knows that we have a broken and racist criminal justice system.
Mm-hmm.
All right. So that means that we have to fundamentally reform how police departments all across this country function. That's number one.
Yep.
Number two, we have to deal with the reality that in America, we have more people in jail today, disproportionately Black, Latino, and Native American than any other country on earth. We have more people in jail than China does,
Yeah.
which is a communist authoritarian country 4 times our size. And what is that about? It's about racism, it's about poverty. Those are issues that we have to deal with. And that is an issue that Biden and a Democratic Congress will deal with.
That's really reassuring to hear, and I'm so happy to hear that. I also, some friends of mine told me about this website called ballotready.org, where it's like super easy and you can basically put in your address and it will tell you, who will come up on your ballot based on your state. And the example that really like opened my eyes to this is the contrast of the cases between George Floyd and Breonna Taylor and the way that they were handled, between Keith Ellison, who was the Attorney General on the George Floyd case, and then Daniel Cameron, the General Attorney on the Breonna Taylor case. And I think that's just another thing that's really, really important to understand and to do your research, especially for first-time voters, on the importance of knowing who you're voting for, who you're ticking on the box, and who's going to represent the state. Just trying to get people to really do their research on all of that.
Well, in terms of criminal justice, the people who will have probably the most significant impact in transforming our broken system will be district attorneys,
Mm-hmm.
will be governors, will be attorney generals.
Mm-hmm.
So they may not seem like important positions, but they are. And that's why we have been working very hard to elect prosecutors and district attorneys
Yes.
who believe in justice, not simply locking people up, trying to understand why people are in jail in the first place.
There have been quite a few, injustices over the years, for many years, but at the same time, I think this year with the COVID-19 pandemic, it's been devastating on so many levels. And I guess here in the UK, like one of the things it has done, or not just in the UK, but all over the world, the one thing that it's done, it's really exposed the inequality in healthcare.
Yes.
And Senator, I wanted to ask you, as someone who's grown up with healthcare that's free at the point of use, I find it so hard to understand why people aren't protesting for universal healthcare? Could you
Well, you are,
explain to me why
I would
that?
like you to do me a favor, Dua. Can you do me a favor?
Absolutely.
All right. Many people in America, for a variety of reasons, having to do with the power of the healthcare industry here, which makes billions of dollars every year, having to do with the corporate media, they do not know how the healthcare systems in the UK, Australia, Canada work. All right, so I'm going to ask you a question that I hope American viewers, your fans in America, will listen to. When you get sick, or
Yes.
somebody in your family gets sick, or maybe has to go to the hospital, how much does it cost you to go?
It's completely free. It's for us Brits, you know, we consider the NHS a right, just like having running water in our house.
All
It's
right, so in other words,
Yeah.
all right, if God forbid somebody you know ends up with a serious illness and they're in the hospital for a month, how much does it cost when they get out of the hospital?
it's completely free.
All right, did everybody in the United States hear what you said? All right. Healthcare in the UK has been since the late 1940s considered to be a human right, not a privilege.
Yeah.
And if you get fired from your job or in the pandemic, you lose your job, do you lose access to healthcare in the UK?
No, not at all, which is also one of the things which I think, you know, it's so sad, the fact that during the pandemic people have lost so many jobs, but then it's completely unfathomable the fact that you also lose your healthcare. I couldn't imagine, you know, that being an extra stress on top of everything
All right.
going
So to your American fans who are watching this,
on.
I want you all to hear very carefully what Dua has said. And it's true in the UK, it's true in Canada, it's true virtually throughout Europe, Australia, New Zealand. When people get sick, they go to the doctor they want. When they're in the hospital, they go to the hospital they want. They don't have to pay out of pocket because it is publicly funded.
Yes.
It's not free, it is publicly funded, often in a progressive way.
Yeah.
And that is exactly what we are fighting for here in the United States. We call it Medicare for all, similar to what our Canadian neighbors have. You go to any hospital, any doctor you want, it does not cost you a nickel. In this country, 500,000 people a year go bankrupt because of medically related bills. And around the world, you're shaking your head because you can't believe it. It sounds crazy to you, right?
No, it's crazy, but also in everything that I've read, you know, about the quality of healthcare in industrialized nations, you know, the UK comes quite close to the top, and then the US is like routinely comes near the bottom. But I know for a fact that there is some excellent healthcare in the US. So why does it come out this way?
Well, the reason is that if you have no health insurance in the United States or you're underinsured, I'll bet many of your British viewers don't even know what a deductible or a copayment is, do they? Does that term mean anything to you?
I have no idea what that is. I'm sorry.
So, you know, I am laughing because everybody in America knows what that term means. It means that even if you have insurance,
Right.
the insurance doesn't cover all of your needs. Before your insurance kicks in, you have to, depending on your policy, spend $500 or $5,000 before your insurance gets. So what I would say to your American fans who are watching this, all over the world, folks, they think we're crazy. They don't even understand what's going on here. And our job, as Dua just said, is to demand health care for all, publicly funded. Every other major country has that. That's what we have got to do.
So important. I you know, it's hard for me to wrap my head around it. But I'm so glad we're having this conversation, and I hope lots of people hear this and see the importance of healthcare and how it really is a basic human right.
Well, let me add just to that. All right. This is going to be even harder for you to believe. All right. Some 60,000 people every year in the United States die because they don't get to a doctor on time, because they don't have any health insurance. They can't afford to get into a doctor's office. So that's how crazy the system is that we're talking about. And the reason it keeps going on is the power of the healthcare industry, the insurance companies, and the drug companies that make tens of billions of dollars every single year, perpetuating, maintaining the system.
It's so mind-blowing and so difficult. It's like it's a hard pill to swallow, you know. I guess another thing is what I've realized here in the UK is the celebration of like our diverse NHS staff. And, you know, every Thursday we would go out 8 p.m. and we would clap for them. And I think there's also a massive, you know, collective understanding that the strength of the NHS is in the commitment of the people that come from all over the world, you know, from cleaners to doctors. And I guess you and I share a similarity in the sense that you're first generation US and I'm first generation UK. And, you know, we've seen what families that have emigrated into these countries have contributed. And I think it's such a contrast to the narrative, you know, with the Trump administration, which seems to spin the you know, the idea of immigrants and asylum seekers and the dangers of having them in the country. You know, can we expect a kinder policy on immigration and asylum seekers with
You
the Biden
absolutely can.
administration?
You absolutely can. It gives me no pleasure to say this, but Donald Trump is a racist and is a xenophobe, and he plays on the worst fears of the American people.
Mhm.
Under a Biden administration and with a Democratic Congress, I hope the Senate becomes Democratic, we're going to have real immigration reform. And starting at the top, we're going to end the demonization of immigrants. All right, let me repeat. You are the daughter of an immigrant from
Mhm.
Kosovo.
Yep.
I am the son of an immigrant from Poland.
Mhm.
And immigrants in this country have built this country historically.
Yep.
And many of us are sick and tired of the demonization of immigrants from Trump. We are going to fight for comprehensive immigration reform, which leads toward a path towards citizenship for the 11 million undocumented. And you know, and I know, that the refugee crisis all over the world is very severe.
Yep.
And we have to figure out how to deal with that in a kind and humane way, not demonizing people who are desperate.
Yeah. Absolutely. Absolutely. I think you're right. Let's do that, because I really I couldn't imagine my you know, my life I think would be so different if my parents hadn't had the opportunity to come to the UK. I don't think my opportunities would have been the same. Um, but again, as you know, as a British person, I get told to like stay out of politics, but I think it's really important that we learn about, you know, each other's country's politics, because that's how we understand the way the world works and learns how to like function as a society. And I just can't stress enough the importance of voting and getting, you know, the young people engaged and getting them out to vote. And I know that with, you know, with the, you know, this election, I know there's so much drama and it's sometimes really difficult to cut through all the noise and to get the right information. But I guess for my final question, and maybe my most important one, is what's your message to young people who have maybe come of political age in the Trump era and feel a little bit demotivated by politics?
What I would say to young people is that you have been handed a rather raw deal. The younger generation has had to go through the terrible recession of the Wall Street crash.
Mhm.
And now you're going through the terrible recession of the pandemic. And young people today in the United States are hurting. Many of them are unemployed. Many of them are working at jobs not commensurate with their education.
Mhm.
Many of them have lower incomes than their parents did when their parents were their age. We have a record-breaking number of young people. You know where they're living right now? They're not living in their own apartments. They're forced to live with their parents when they want to get out on their own because they don't have enough income. And young people are keenly aware of the problems of racism, of sexism, of homophobia, of xenophobia. Young people, more than their parents, understand that we have to deal with climate change.
Yep.
And you talk about understanding each other's political system. Well, you know what? You're living in one world, and that world is getting smaller.
Smaller and smaller.
And if there's a pandemic starting in China, it impacts the world. And if there's a recession starting with a Wall Street crash in the United States, it impacts the world.
Yeah.
All right. And climate change will impact every country on earth. So we better learn about each other's systems. And all of us have got to be prepared to deal with climate change, income and wealth inequality, the refugee crisis that we're facing, huge issues that are out there. So I say to the young people, more than any other group of people. This election is vitally important to you.
Mhm.
It will determine whether you're going to have a decent job, decent income, whether you're going to have health care, whether we're going to be able to grapple with the crisis of climate change, whether we deal with racism and police reform and all of the other issues so important to young people. So this is an election you just cannot afford to sit out. You've got to come out and vote, and it may in fact end up being a very close election. Your vote matters. Make sure you cast it.
Absolutely. Thank you so, so much, Senator Bernie, for your time, for your amazing answers. I'm sure this is gonna inspire hopefully lots of young people, especially first-time voters, to go out and vote on November 3rd. And for those that want, a bit more information on what's going to come out on their ballot and where they can find out who to vote for and to do their research, because that's incredibly, incredibly important. That website, ballotready.org, is amazing. And yeah, thank you so much for your time. I really, really, really appreciate it.
Well, thank you very much for your interest and your help. See you soon.
Thank you. Bye.